Welcome everyone to the action plan. Again, this week we have Praveen with us. So hi Praveen, welcome back again.
Hi Granny, how are you this weekend? I'm
I'm
good.
good. I'm good, thanks. So today, Praveen, as we decided, we'll go ahead and talk about the challenges you faced when you started up various startups, and what were the challenges you faced, and what was the reasons they happened, and what we could do maybe to avoid it going forward, right?
Yes, Kanwal. That's a nice thing to share with people because now startups are becoming very common as such, and a lot of youngsters wants to start. The
So
basic,
yeah.
yeah. Go ahead. Go
Please
ahead.
go ahead. I was just going to tell
Yeah.
you to please tell me. Let's start with one, and then we'll take those. Maybe given a real example, and then maybe we'll look at the solution we could possibly have. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody wants to be a boss of their own. So that is why all these startup concepts keeps on coming up. And the basic, a fear or a factor which they wanted to start this startup is that they think that if you make a company and you can grow rich within within 6 months to 1 year, as they show in the films. So that's the most encouraging thing for a lot of youngsters to start as go for a startup. That's the basic fear or a fantasy which the people think of a startup. The second obsession people have is that what product I should do. They forget the things what they own or they inherit, but they see about a lot of people saying that somebody started a IT app application, so I should do a app. I may not be in that field, but I still try to ape somebody and try to do things. So that is one of the second obsession people going to have. The third one is a financial factor. So people always think that you need to have a startup which needs a lot of money. And there are a couple of things. One is you need things for your basic operation. The second one is that people think that if I have a startup, then I have to have the complete structure of a whole business setup. Like I need to have from receptionist to the security guard. That is the way a startup goes. So these are the main three illusions most of the entrepreneurs get into when they make a startup. What's your thoughts on it? Do you come across the same things or?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on most of the important things that people normally have a misconception about when they are starting a business. I think the biggest thing and the most important thing is that they think they're going to become instantly rich. As you rightly said, instantaneous success is never a reality, right? You have the most difficult path when you're a startup, whether it be funds, whether it be getting the right people, getting the process in place. Everything is going to be a challenge before you come even to a semblance of normalcy. Forget about a luxurious life or a rich life. Just a very normal life takes years for them to set in place. Again, this is not to discourage anybody who's thinking of starting up a business. I think what the point you are making, I reiterate that don't expect immediate success. I think the important thing is that clearly set a plan and a realistic expectation, what you can achieve and when. And that I think is the right way to go about doing a plan, for sure.
Uh, yes, Colonel. It is always to have a reality check when we start something on it. So that's the thing. When we move ahead on whatever the thoughts we have, second comes into is what line of business I should get into. So that is where I think your business plan approach helps us a lot. At least we can bring all our thoughts into a piece of paper to look at what things we can do, and how we need to do, when to do, and what is the cost of it, where are my customers, what is my niche area. So these are I think following your business approach is a good tool. Kendall. Why don't you just go ahead with saying what are things you would ask an entrepreneur for things what you need to do a business plan?
See, one thing is that I don't fully agree with the concept that you need to be an expert at what business you're getting yourself into, right? Now, the part about knowing what you're getting yourself into is different from being an expert. You can hire experts who are expert in the topic and still run a successful business, right? So that part is okay. The problem we have is that we think we are the expert of that product. And that is what is the differentiation we need to do, is that we don't need to be an expert when we're an entrepreneur, right? You need to have the right people and the right minds and the right expertise available to make that business a success. That's when you become a successful organization. But everybody feels that the next door neighbor has done it. If he can do it, I'm definitely smarter than him. I can surely do better than him. And they get into a business and then fall flat on their face because of lack of either of these factors and end up in losing a huge amount of money because they are in the wrong place at the wrong time. Right? So I think I totally agree with you. Yes, you don't necessarily need to be an expert in your business field that you're doing, but you need to have the right expertise and the right manpower to run your business properly. That goes without saying.
Yes, Kanwal, I would slightly differ from your thought on that. What I was thinking is that what it keeps you staying in business is the passion. So
True.
you take a particular line of thing and you feel that this is what I need to do. Because when you have a startup, you get into a lot of unexpected things coming into the place. It may be a very smooth start to sail with, and within 3-4 months you stumble across a lot of things, like even this corona situation. Somebody would have started the business in January, would never have thought that something is going to keep him crippled for 8-9 months. And even the established businesses, people are also struggling with this cripple.
True.
So that what I found in this 9 months, there have been a lot of business which closed, a lot of business been running, and what I found, the people who have been able to maintain and go forward is, one is the passion. Like the best example would be our Tirupur side industries, where cotton was totally knitting industry was totally 0-0. Then people started developing masks, then PPE kits and things like that. So it is basically because of the passion and the opportunity to see where the money comes in. So that is what it drives the entrepreneurship to move forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, see, that you can never do a business unless you're passionate about what you do, right? As you say, you have to dream. You know, unless you don't have a dream, you can never make it a reality. So the starting part is your inherent passion and the dream that you want to achieve, right? It's how you go about doing it is the challenge that you have when you have a startup, right? So the point you made about Tirupur also, see, if they continue trying to sell cotton clothes, because I'm passionate about making cotton clothes, they would have sunk. The important part is that they saw an opportunity, they adapted to that opportunity, and they captured that opportunity and made it into an alternative to what they normally do. That's what helped them going forward. Yes, they are still in cotton-based stuff that they do, but not doing the earlier garments or whatever that they're doing, which would have taken them down the drain. So you're absolutely right. See, I want to be an entrepreneur is the simplest dream you can have. How you're going to do it and how you're going to be nimble and adapt to the various challenges the market brings up to you is where the whole success of being a successful entrepreneur and being just calling yourself an entrepreneur is. That's the difference between the two.
Yes, Garnwell, I would like to add one small point to your thoughts on it. Is like what I feel that entrepreneur is a person who should not be complaining, whether it is a market, whether it is things. He should be the one who should be able to adapt to things and keep moving on rather than getting stuck with some problem which comes in.
I think you totally nailed it. The point here is that you are the leader, you are the visionary, right? If you don't have a vision, how are the people behind you going to follow? No. If I'm going to be a guy sitting and saying, "Oh my God, the world is falling on my head," what are the people? They're all going to run scared under you and run looking for different jobs or alternate employment and money as well. So yes, you have to be the solution provider, not the problem creator, right? That is the goal of an entrepreneur, is to find opportunity in a problem. That is the skill of a successful entrepreneur. And I think that's what makes for very successful people as well. Those that see an opportunity in a problem. And that's what makes a big, big difference between those successful and those who have not been so successful.
To add it further, since we talked about business plan and I went through some of the business plans as such, the most toughest part of the business plan is the first filling your first sheet of it.
You're absolutely right.
Rest of the things, even the financials were not that difficult to fit. But the first sheet and the second sheet, which talks about your business, what you want to do, how you want to do, what is your preconceived notions about it, and how do you fare better than your competitors. These are something which is a real brainstorming things. And is it that how did you come up or is it the normal business plan comes up with so many intricate questions, or you improvise the business plan schedule with your experience?
No, no, no. To be fair, whatever I created as my framework are lessons I've learned working with other entrepreneurs only. Okay. So to be fair, see, nobody is an expert in everything, right? So there's a difference between having a dream and making it a feasible business, right? That is the biggest gap you have in a passion. I'm passionate about doing something. You cannot always necessarily convert a passion into a profitable business. You can do it as a social service or do it as a duty to society, but you may not be able to convert it into a profitable business, right? So the whole goal of my initial piece is to take what is a dream in your head and put it down to realistic business parameters, right? And as you said, that is the most difficult part, is getting over yourself, because you are so close to the issue, you're not able to see, as they say, the forest for the trees, right? You are looking at it with a very narrow scope, saying, this is what I want, I'm passionate about it, I have to make this into a feasible business. So that vision of wanting to make it into a feasible business needs some sort of reality check when you try to bring it down. So I'll give you a very realistic example. The example of an architect and a civil engineer, right? An architect is somebody who has to make the building beautiful. The building can be at an angle of 300 and 145 degrees, but technically speaking, it cannot stand on its own with certain amount of foundation and certain amount of reinforcement. So that's why they call it value engineering. When you take a dream of an architect and you value engineering it down to the customer, saying, to achieve this that you want, it's going to cost you so much, right? And in certain cases, you need to modify that total dream of the architect in certain parts to make it even physically stand up, to avoid the forces of gravity, right? So that's how you take a dream and convert it into a reality, by doing reality evaluation. So that's the very first step that I do, is that I have a reality check of those who want to get into business, saying, should I even be in this business to start with? Have I really thought through the very basic things of why am I in it at all? What am I trying to get out of this business? If those questions that the dreamer himself answers, that means he has a clear vision and a clear mission, right? Then the parts of feasibility and finance will eventually fall in place. Those are just semantics. You need to get to those factors, which is essential for business. And that is in any business, no? But if you are not clear what you want, you will be all over the place. And people following you will also be running after you, trying to keep in touch with what you are trying to do. That is where the danger lies. And that is what I try to address at the very initial part.
That was your example of an architect and a civil engineer was the classic one, because that is where most of the entrepreneurs be. Most of the entrepreneurs are as an architect, but they lack the civil foundation of things. And to get it grounded is something a very difficult task. And I think that's the right way of saying that you being a planning coach, not a mentor. Planning coach means it means that you are working with us to bring down to reality and take things forward as a vision. As such. That is one. The other thing, what normally happens is why I was very happy with your business plan was that the other thing which normally people come across is the social fear. So you start a business, everybody, when you start or when you're going to start, you say, yeah, come on, do it. It is great. He has done and all this thing. And after 2 months, 3 months, they ask what happened to your business. You will say still it is happening, because everything has an incubation period and it tends to bring results on it. But by the time this social business, hey, 3 months, no business. Hey, why did you do that? You should have closed down. You should have been working only. Why did you come here? No, this is a fear which most of the entrepreneur comes in. And I think your financial planning and your market outlook in your business plan would at least give a entrepreneur comfort zone to think that whether we are on track. I think we did discuss about this in our previous discussions, like how you do the planning for first month, first quarter, then halfly and a year, and then we take it out to 5 years. Right? I think you should tell something more about this particular fear about it.
See, again, implementation of a plan is the second phase, right? Once you're clear, you have a plan. The next is implementing the plan. And that is where you will face most of the hurdles, as you said. You are surely going to find something that you've missed. There is no such thing in the world exists as a perfect plan, right? Because you are not, it's not a contained environment where all the assumptions you have taken are true and that it will come for. Even in testing of chemicals, for example, right? The drugs they give us, there is a certain degree of accuracy or effectiveness, right? They are doing it in the most optimum situation and the most variables they can think of testing to see the efficacy. But they say there is, even then there is a certain amount of that drug that will fail, right? It's the very same thing in a plan, right? You can never have an actual plan that will work 100% of the time. The important part is that you keep tracking what you have planned. You plan something, right? You go back and measure, I planned this, I am here now. Where do I stand today versus what I planned? What has changed for the better and the worst, right? So I capitalize on the better and take it up and overcome what I did not anticipate to ensure that those don't pull me down. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. So if you keep evaluating your process in different intervals, and that is part of the business planning process, is to set up milestones saying, I will check it at this time, maybe a month, a quarter, 6 months, 1 year. You set up a proper expectation from the owner that he has to go back and revisit the assumptions that he took and measure his progress against the assumptions and change. As I say, no, you have to reposition the goalpost. There's a saying, right? So you have to always keep saying, I set a goal of 1 kilometer wide. I thought I was surely going to hit the goal. It's come to 1 mm. The ball is not even going to go in. I can't keep saying that I can still hit a goal, right? It sounds very absurd, what example I gave, but it's as impractical as that in a plan sometimes. You have made so many assumptions. Just think of somebody who was starting up a business in COVID. We wouldn't have dreamed of having COVID coming. You're going to hit a straight block as soon as you're in, right? You need to adapt then and there. You can't say, you know what, I was expecting that so much sale is going to come. It has to come. It won't. Everybody shut down, everybody's closed. You have to find an alternative and quickly steer towards the direction of the reality on the ground. And then, yes, when COVID goes off and everything comes back to normal, yes, you come back to the position that you had and re-steer your direction back on track, you will make progress. That is the problem with the planning organizations too, which unfortunately, in a lot of cases, including my learning experience, is that I made a plan, I should stick to the plan, right? There was proper assumptions made and it is going through, but we need to keep a clear understanding that there is going to be a reality check of the market and the ground reality of how is implementing. So that feedback mechanism and actual keeping yourself flexible is the success of implementing a business plan.
That is actually we could see the what to say. It gives us a confidence how to move forward and things like that. The other problem which normally which your business plan helps us also is on the financial outlook. So normally when as an entrepreneur, when we start, it is always a short term. So what money I needed for the first 2-3 months or 6 months, and it always stays within a year. And within a year, all the money what you keep is always what to say. It is manageable. Right. But when it has been stretched to the second year, to the fifth year, then only you see where you need to bring in funds, how we need to bring in funds, what is the stock level you need to make. So those things are the one which helps. And just tell us how you go through that in your business plan as such.
I think you've nailed it very, very clearly, Praveen. I think the issue is that people don't realize that business is to make money, right? I think we have always had reluctance to tell my customer, I am here to make profit. Yeah, yes. I need to make profit. I'm not going to do business for free, right? I need to pay salaries. I've got raw materials. I've got overheads. So why will I not make a profit? Why do I take all this pain and all this to do it for free, right? So the first thing that the entrepreneur should look at is that I need to make profit. Yes, I need to do it in the right way, in the legal way, in the correct direction. Is the visionary should look at it in that way rather than taking unscrupulous ways of making profit. Okay, so that needs to be clear in the mind of an entrepreneur that I'm in this to make money. And when you have this clarity that I'm in this to make the money, the next step you have to look at is that what are the challenges I'm going to face to make this money, right? Yes. So I have so much of money I've taken as a loan or I've taken as an investment, I'm putting in so much. I have so much of buffer money kept with me to put in as feed money in case I run into some unexpected changes, right? But I don't have unlimited funds. Nobody in the world has unlimited funds. to have any quantity of organization that they run, right? But at the same time, when you not taking a risk is another danger where you could go to. Say, I'll be very conservative, I'll stay within the parameters, you'll never be able to get your business off to a start. So striking the balance between the risk taking versus ensuring that you have the right resources is the challenge, right? So when it
That
comes
is
to
true.
financial planning, as you said, you need to look at the short term for sure, but also keep the long term in mind, making sure that I'm moving in the right direction, taking care of my short term needs, right? If I don't have cash flow, forget about the long term plan. I will never make even the short term plan, right?
That is true.
But what is the important part is to acknowledge that I have a problem. As soon as you run into a financial issue, you should stop and say, what am I doing wrong? Not keep on trying to do the same thing and expecting different results. It never happens, right? But that is the danger of a startup, is that we are new at it. Some people don't have enough experience to run the business. So they keep thinking that we said we'll wait for 6 months. So let's do it till 6 months and see what happens after 6 months. I believe that yes, there is merit to thinking that way. You shouldn't do too many quick changes to get to a certain goal, but you have to also keep continuously evaluating, am I doing it right? Was the assumption that I've taken right? Has the market changed? Has the customer needs changed? I mean, is this product out of the market? Design industry, the designs change overnight, right? What was a fashion design in summer is not a fashion design in winter. And that's a period of 2 weeks. If your product reaches at 2 weeks later, it's not going to get sold. It's as simple as that, right? There's a reality check you need to keep in mind, that the clear window I have to capitalize on the opportunity is when I need to capitalize on it, right? So the biggest danger is that you don't have that clarity of what is the window you have. And that also applies to finance, right? Any decision you take, I always tell the planning team is that keep in mind that you are keeping this grounded, that it's going to produce a profit. Or at least you evaluate what is the loss you are absorbing when you're doing this particular step in your business planning. And that is clearly understood by the owner, that I am absorbing this loss as an investment to further my product and my organization. And I expect this return in this period of time, which that overall business profitability will compensate this loss. So that's how you manage your finance as you go forward.
Yes, Colonel, well said on it. What I was thinking is, like when we were talking, I was thinking about the one more biggest challenge for all the entrepreneurs is that market acceptance. So as a entrepreneur, you start business and 3 months nothing is happening great. Then you get to do this social pressure of seeing performance and all those things. Then you start taking unwanted risks of giving more credit in the market, not worried about collecting payment, offering at cost to cost at times, and all those things. And those are the times really we need somebody as a coach to help us bring it back to that table and show that this is what we planned in the business plan and how to go about it. Just tell us that how would you run through it when we get into that half track of it?
See, as you said, there's always a possibility that the product may fail, right? Whatever you set out to do, it may not go as per your expectation because you have not read certain factors at the time of doing your market study. This is a given. So if anybody says they can do a perfect market study, they are full of crap. There's no way that can happen. Okay. At the same time, you have a probability risk in every product that you adopt. So you need to always have a plan B. As inherent part of the business planning process, it's never a good idea to go forward with just one plan saying, I'm going to go with this and this is my whole bet. Yes, you need to have a central product that is going to signify your organization. Okay. At the same time, you should always ask the question, what if this product doesn't fail, doesn't take off, it fails? What am I going to do? If you've not asked this question, you've not done your planning. That has to be the obvious question you need to ask, right? You need to ground your decision in your market study and information you have, but that's what it is. It's a market study. You have a sample audience. You can't go to every customer and take a market information. You go to a sample study. So it's a weighted risk you're taking based on the information you've collected, right? So when you are monitoring your progress and you are seeing the progress is not happening, sit down and reevaluate the assumptions you've taken of the market and have your sales team go back to the customer and say, why are you not buying my product? What is the issues with my product? And trust me, that itself is marketing by itself. When you're going to your customer to ask him what the problem is, shows you are interested in improving your quality and your service, right? That's what 90% of customers are looking for. And they come.
Yeah, that is true.
Sorry?
Yeah, that is true. I wanted to interrupt is like when we have a team of say at least 4 or 5 people, then you have different thoughts coming in, or somebody could be a moderator, somebody could be aggressor to move things on it. So now the trend with what is happening is an entrepreneur. It may be a single one person company, or it could be one person with two subordinates who are just work people. They cannot give you valuable inputs on it. And that is the time when it is a one company or a very small setup. That is the time the entrepreneur gets off the way if they don't have a plan and they don't have somebody watching over them like you as a business coach.
So,
Uh, most of the times when we did it in the past, also what we found is that you have a preconceived notion saying that this is the right way to go about it, and you feel that that is right. And if you are directly working in the market, you tend to observe the signals in the market and change course. But if you are given the direction and you have a team in place, and based on your direction, the team goes blindly forward, and most of the time it gets into a disappointment stage saying that what the interest I put in the business, I'm not getting the output on it, and
so,
slowly the startup dies off. So
so
have you come across these situations, Kendall?
all the time, all the time. I mean, you have every entrepreneur that runs into this situation sometime in their implementation, without question. Okay. As you said, the smaller the organization, the more hands-on the entrepreneur is on the day-to-day, right? It's good and bad, right? When you have a decent sized organization, each person has his particular role and is independently taking decisions moving forward with the guidelines you're given. There is positive in that. And even if one guy goes off, the whole thing can go down the drain. So the downside is also there. When you have a hands-on person, everything is centralized. But what that tends to happen is tends to stretch the attention of that one person or two people into multiple things that are happening. You cannot allocate resources to every function, right? So you split the
Yeah, that
functions
is true.
between the people you have, which tends to take your attention into multiple things at the same time. So what I normally do with those sort of people is that I become that checkpoint. Okay,
Okay.
I'm fine. You go about doing on multiple things, but this is what I want: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on a regular basis, once a day, once a week, once a month. I set that parameters that I have a referral point, which we monitor on a regular basis, saying that are we making the progress or not? Because they would not have the time to even do that, right? The important thing with an entrepreneur is to step back and listen. Sometimes you're so much into it, right? As you said, one part is the fear of going forward. The other way is taking too much risk. You have both extremes, right? So what you need to do is to have a balanced approach. Yes, I'm ready to take a call. And in the end, it is the decision of the entrepreneur, not the coach, right? The coach is working out of experience and out of what parameters he has set in his evaluation of the process, right? The ground reality is the guy who's out there on the market with the customer. So we always need to defer to those people, right? So the coach guy is, I guide you. This is what I see. This is what my experience has told me in the past, which has been proven not by one sample idea, but multiple episodes I've had in the past. This is the better way to go about it. This is what the coach can maximum say. It still has to be a
Uh,
risk-based decision taken by the entrepreneur.
That is right, Rahul. The main, as you said, the main issue of an entrepreneur is to sit back. That is the worst thing or the last thing which an entrepreneur can do it. And I feel that as a business coach, it becomes your primary responsibility to make sense to an entrepreneur saying that, hey, please see what is happening on there. Just hold on, listen to me. I think that would be the toughest job you should be having as such.
I am the bearer of bad news all the time. I am the guy who says things you don't like to listen to. Yeah. I'm the guy who's saying the dirtiest news you want to hear because that is my job, right? My job is to have a reality check, and if I don't keep it real, things are going to go off track. So you're right. And that's the role I play most of the time, and which I'm happy to play because that is my job as a coach, right? If you look at a cricket coach, he's not looking at what you do good, he's looking at what you do bad. That doesn't mean he doesn't
That is
appreciate
true.
you're good. He knows you have inherent talent. So he's only fine tuning the parts that is holding you back. So that's exactly what I do. I only focus on the part that is holding the entrepreneur back. I let him work to his strength. I say, you focus on your strength, go forward with your strength. Don't let the shortcomings overpower your strengths. And the biggest thing with a coach is never to inhibit an entrepreneur or hold him back. I think the goal of the coach is a push. Okay, you need to
That is
give
true.
that push and give him the confidence that you need to move, you need to go forward, move on. I am there, go forward. That is what a coach would do in any situation. Yes, and it's his duty to hold him back when he's jumping off a cliff as well. So it's a balanced role of good and bad.
So I would take this opportunity to say thank you, Granville, for coaching us and holding us back when we do something wrong and bringing back to our senses.
Pleasure, Praveen. I think we have gone past our 30-minute time limit. So thank you for sparing your time. This was a very engaging session for me, at least. I hope it was for you as well.
Yeah, it was interesting. It gave me an opportunity to discuss about what as a feeling of an entrepreneur, what it comes through and how it is there. And most of the time, what is the problem happens is that the entrepreneur does not have a person to guide them. So now with this business planning coach and things happening, at least we can take your services and demand the necessary support so that all the business could end up as a success. So thanks a lot, Grenville. Thanks.
Great,
Let's hope to
know.
go.
And as whoever's watching this video, please share your questions. Praveen and me have a great relationship, and we're working well as friends as well as customer and coach too. So we learn with our experience as well, and we would like to share it with you as well. So please feel free to ask the questions you have or to reach out to us. You have our link as well. I conduct this every week with Praveen, and we have these engaging sessions on Facebook and post it on YouTube as well. So be welcome to subscribe and join and share it with anybody who gets benefit from this. This is Grenville, Planning Coach, signing off. And thank you, Praveen, for your time as well.
Thank you, guys. Our request is that since we are doing every Sunday, and if you feel that we need to talk about any different topic related to business or anything else, we are ready to debate on it and just present our views to it so that we can take it forward in the way what it's required. Thank you, guys. Thank you. See you at Coach Grenville. Bye. See you on next Sunday.
See you, Praveen. Take care. Bye-bye.